Most people think getting lost on Fuji is hard. There are too many people, they say. Too many signs. Too many lights. You just follow the crowd. That's true on the postcards. It's less true at 3 in the morning in thick fog above the 8th station, when everyone thinks someone else knows where they're going. My name is Kaito. I was 19 the summer I got lost on Mount Fuji and found a station that doesn't exist on any map. I wasn't supposed to be alone. Our hiking circle had planned the night climb for weeks: cheap bus from Shinjuku, Yoshida Trail from 5th station, rest at the 8th, summit at dawn. We bought headlamps, rented jackets, boasted online about conquering Fuji like 100,000 other students before us. At the 5th station, it felt like a festival. Tourists taking selfies with the big wooden sign, stalls selling oxygen cans and walking sticks. The mountain looked almost cute in the late afternoon light, its slopes softer than the harsh, snow-topped image from winter. "It's just a big hill with marketing," my friend Ren said. "Stop being nervous." I wasn't nervous about the climb. I was nervous about the part no one sees. Fuji at night, above the last vending machine, where the lights thin out and the red torii gates stand alone in the dark. We started at 7 p.m. The lower trail was a line of headlamps snaking upwards, like a glowing centipede. People chatted, laughed, passed each other, took breaks. Signs told us how far to the next station, how many meters above sea level, how often we should rest. At the 7th station, my legs started to notice the climb. At the 8th, my lungs did. We'd booked space in one of the huts, but when we got there around midnight, it was packed, rows of sleeping bags squeezed side by side, snoring tourists, the smell of sweat and instant curry. "Let's just go slower and head for the top," Ren said. "We'll nap up there after sunrise." We were young. We were stupid. We went. Above the 8th station, the air thinned. My head throbbed. The trail turned from dirt to loose volcanic rock that slid underfoot, each step forward half a step back. Clouds moved in. One moment, the stars were sharp above us, the Milky Way a pale smear across the sky. The next, white mist rolled up from below, swallowing the world. Our headlamps turned the fog into a wall of glowing milk. "Stay close," our senpai Aki shouted. "Don't stop for long or you'll start to feel sick. Just keep the person in front of you in sight." That worked, for about 10 minutes. Then someone's light went out ahead of me. Someone else stumbled. The line bunched up, spread, frayed. Voices came from everywhere. "Rock. Sorry, go ahead. Where's the rope? Is this the trail?" I tried to keep Aki's blue jacket in sight, but another group squeezed between us at a bottleneck. A kid slipped and grabbed my arm. When I steadied him and looked up again, the blue jacket was gone. So was Ren's neon green pack. "Hey!" I called. "Ren." My voice vanished into the fog. More lights moved around me, but they all looked the same now, white circles and gray soup. The wind changed. The sound of footsteps grew softer. When I finally realized I'd stepped aside to let someone pass and never rejoin the main flow, it was too late. I was alone on Fuji. Panic comes in quiet. It doesn't always arrive as a scream or a racing heart. Sometimes it tiptoes up behind your ribs and settles there, whispering, "What if this is how you disappear?" I stood still and tried to calm my breathing. "Okay," I told myself. "You're between the 8th and 9th stations. The trail just goes up. If you keep going up, you'll hit the summit eventually. Or you'll run into other people. It's Fuji, not Everest." I clicked my headlamp to a wider beam and scanned the fog. There were no other lights. The only things visible were a rough path of crushed rock and wooden posts with rope strung between them, marking the way. I picked a direction that felt up and started walking. My footsteps made no sound. That registered slowly. Volcanic gravel usually crunches. Boots scrape. Poles click. But here, everything felt muffled. As if the fog weren't just air but a thick, invisible blanket. After a minute, I stopped. I couldn't hear the wind. Even in fog, there should have been some movement. A hiss. A distant gust. Fuji is famous for unpredictable gusts that knock people off balance. Here, nothing. Just my breathing. And, faintly, something else. A bell. Small, metallic, ringing at irregular intervals. Not the big shrine bells at the trail torii. A handbell. Like the kind you sometimes see hanging from trekking packs. Hello? I called. The bell stopped. Silence poured in, heavier than before. Then a voice spoke very close to my ear. Don't waste your breath, it said. The mountain isn't listening. I spun around. There was a person standing just outside the reach of my headlamp. At first, I thought it was another student, about my height, wearing a dark jacket, a cap pulled low. But their outline was wrong. Slightly too thin, too still, like a mannequin someone had forgotten on the trail. Sorry, I said automatically. I got separated from my group. Do you know? You're off the main path, they said. The voice was neutral. Not male, not female, the way some voices are on phone menus. You stepped out of the line. Yeah, I said. Can you point me back? My lamp flickered. For a moment, the person's face was visible. Then it was gone again, swallowed by the fog. In that brief glimpse, I saw no headlamp, no backpack, and eyes that didn't reflect the light. You can go back, the person said. Or you can keep going up. There is another way. They lifted one arm and pointed. My beam followed. The wooden posts and rope of the main trail disappeared into the fog ahead. Off to the right, half hidden behind rocks, a narrower path led up at a sharper angle. No posts. No rope. Just faint scratches in the dirt where feet had worn the slope. A wooden sign stood at the junction. It was old, the paint faded and peeling. Someone had nailed it crooked to a half-buried rock. The kanji were hard to read, but I made them out. Old Ninth Station. Pilgrim's Route. I frowned. I've never heard of that, I said. Is it on the map? In older maps, the person said. Before the new routes. Before the tour buses. They tilted their heads slightly. It's shorter, they added. More direct. Fewer crowds. The old pilgrims used it when they didn't want to climb with the noise of everyone else. My phone was in my pocket, cold and heavy. I pulled it out and checked the Fuji climbing app Aki had made us download. It showed my position as a blue dot between the 8th and 9th stations. No side trail. No old 9th station. Just the main line, leading steadily upward. I looked back at the sign. The kanji shifted. For a second, they seemed to read something else. Lost people. I blinked. Again. My head throbbed. Altitude, I told myself. Lack of sleep. Is the old route safe? I asked slowly. The person's mouth twitched. If you want to reach the summit, they said, the old way is very reliable. I waited. They didn't add anything. Have you used it? I asked. We all have, they said. They gestured behind them. For the first time, I noticed shapes in the fog just past their shoulders. Dozens of them. Too still. Too quiet. I took a step back. Thanks, I said. But I think I'll stick to the official trail. My friends are on it. The air thickened. Something like disappointment passed over their unseen face. The main path is easy to lose in this weather, they said. You could be wandering for hours. People get tired. They sit down. They sleep. The mountain prefers people who keep moving. So do I said, forcing a laugh. Thanks for the warning. I turned toward where the posts and rope vanished into fog. The person spoke again, softer. If you change your mind, they said, the old station will be there. It's for those who step off the map. The bell rang once. When I looked back, they were gone. So were the shapes. Just fog and rocks and my own breath now. I walked. I don't know how long I followed the main trail. 2 minutes. 20. Time felt strange, stretched thin by altitude and whiteout and the constant need to watch my feet. At some point, I realized the posts had disappeared. I was still on a path, but it was narrower now, the slope steeper. My headlamp showed only 3 steps ahead, then nothing. I stopped. Turned. There were no posts behind me, either. No rope. Just a faint track in loose rock that could have been made by any feet going any direction. My heart sped up. I checked my phone. No signal. The climbing app spun, searching. My blue dot flashed, then froze. For a moment, it showed me back below the 8th station. Then it jumped. The label changed. Location, unknown. The app crashed. In the silence that followed, I heard the bell again. Closer now. Ringing somewhere above me. I should have turned back. Instead, I tilted my head up and saw, a little ahead, a faint rectangle of light in the fog. Warm. Yellow. A mountain hut. Relief hit so hard my knees went weak. I stumbled toward it. The building emerged from the fog like a ship. Low, wooden, with a heavy roof weighed down by stones. A small torii gate stood in front of it, half buried in gravel. The light came from a window covered in paper too thick to see through clearly. A sign hung crooked near the door. No old. No new. Just 9th station. My stomach twisted. Sumimasen. I called. Excuse me. The door slid open before I could reach for it. Warm, dry air spilled out, carrying the smell of miso soup and kerosene. A man stood in the doorway. He was older than I expected, maybe in his late 50s, with a weathered face and a bandana tied around his head. His eyes were sharp and oddly colorless in the lamplight. "You made good time," he said. "Come in. You'll freeze out there." I hesitated. Behind him, the hut's interior was dim but welcoming, low tables, thermoses, sleeping platforms with blankets. No one else moved. But I felt eyes on me. Dozens of them. "You're open?" I asked. "Even in this weather?" He smiled. "We're always open," he said. "For certain guests." That should have made me turn away. Instead, I stepped inside. The door slid shut behind me with a sound that felt like something locking. The silence hit first. Outside, the storm had been muted, but still present. Inside, there was nothing. No wind. No creaking wood. No snoring. Even my own footsteps on the wooden floor made no sound. The only noise was the faint clink of the bell, hanging from a hook by the door. The one I'd heard in the fog. "Sit," the man said, gesturing to a low table. "You look tired." He wasn't wrong. My legs trembled when I knelt. My hands shook when I accepted the cup of hot tea he poured. The liquid was a little too clear, lacking the smell of normal tea, but it was warm. I drank greedily. "Are you alone?" he asked. "My friends are on the main trail," I said. "We got separated above the 8th station. I saw the sign for the old 9th end." "Ah," he said. "So you chose the old way after all." "I thought I stayed on the main path," I said. "But the posts disappeared." "They do that, sometimes," he said. "When the mountain thinks someone should visit us instead." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Where are the others?" I asked. "Staff? Guests?" He gestured lazily around the room. "They're all here," he said. At first, I thought he meant the empty platforms and folded blankets. Then my eyes adjusted. There were people in the hut. They sat against the walls, on the platforms, in corners. Still. Too still. Their clothes were a mix of eras, old-style climbing jackets, faded windbreakers from the 90s, brand-new technical gear. Some wore hats. Some didn't. None wore headlamps. Their faces were pale in the lantern light, features blurred by shadow. Their eyes were open. All of them. Watching me. No one blinked. No one breathed loud. I hadn't heard them when I came in. I hadn't heard them move. Go ahead, the man said. Introduce yourself. It's polite to sign in. He slid a notebook toward me. It was old, its cover warped by years of damp and heat. A brush pen lay beside it. The first page was filled with names. So were the second, third, 10th. I scanned them, my finger hovering over the ink. Some were smudged. Others were crisp. One near the middle made my brain misfire. Tanaka Osamu. The name of a missing climber from 3 years ago. I remembered it from a news segment, *University student from Saitama missing on Fuji, search called off after 3 days. *. I flipped further. Names I didn't know. Names the hut did. Near the back, I found another that froze my hand. Hoshino Naoki. My cousin. He'd disappeared on Fuji when I was 12. My aunt had come to our house to scream and sob. Search parties, posters, local news. They found his backpack, one glove, nothing else. Everyone said it was the mountain. No one said the word eaten, but it hung in the air. I hadn't thought about him in years. There are many Naokis in the world, the man said mildly. I realized my lips had formed the name. He tapped the page. Names are just ways to keep track, he said. The mountain doesn't use them. But we do. It helps us remember who's here. He slid the pen closer. Go ahead, he said. Sign in. Then you can rest. The summit will wait. His voice was calm. Too calm. The people pressed against the walls watched without moving. Did they all reach the summit? I asked. Of course, he said. Everyone reaches the summit. He leaned forward. It's the coming down that's difficult. The room seemed smaller suddenly. The walls closer. The air too thick. I should go back, I said. My group will worry. He tilted his head. Your group is already at the top, he said. Or back at the 8th station. Or on the bus home. Time is strange up here. He gestured to the notebook. But you made it, he added. Not everyone does. Why waste that? Sign in. Join us. We've been waiting for someone from your family for a long time. My hand tightened on the pen. The wooden floor beneath me felt too smooth. As if many people had knelt here for a long time, long after their muscles should have cramped. When did this hut close? I asked. On the official trail maps, there are only a few huts near the 9th station. None called. I realized I hadn't seen a name for this place. No sign outside. No logo. Just 9th station. We never closed, he said. We simply stopped being listed. He smiled faintly. Maps change, he said. Mountains don't. Stations like ours only exist for people who step off the map anyway. The bell by the door rang once. No wind had touched it. A low murmur ran through the people at the walls. Not out loud. In my head. A pressure, like being underwater with others who were humming the same note. My vision blurred. For a moment, I saw. The same room in different years. Lantern light instead of electric. Straw mats instead of wooden platforms. Men in white pilgrim robes kneeling where we sat now, their faces thin, eyes bright with something between faith and exhaustion. Then, overlaid on that, modern climbers in plastic ponchos, gasping for air, fingers blue. Then emptiness. Then all of them together. Layered. Waiting. You're tired, the man said. Altitude does that. Drink more. Sign. Sleep. He pushed the notebook closer. The pen brushed my fingers. The instant it touched my skin, I felt it. Cold. Like the key of a door I didn't want to open. A whisper threaded through my thoughts, in the same neutral voice I'd heard in the fog. Asterisk we all chose. You stepped off the map. This is where that path ends, asterisk. My cousin's name pulsed on the page. Naoki. I dropped the pen. No, I said. It came on hoarse. I didn't choose this. I just lost sight of the trail. I want to go back. The man's face didn't change. But the space around his eyes tightened. That's not how this works, he said. You think the lost get to decide where they're found? He slapped the notebook shut. The sound was loud in the silent room. The people along the walls leaned forward slightly. All at once. Don't be rude, he said, voice still calm but edged now. You came in. You warmed yourself. You're breathing our air. The least you can do is leave your name. That's the rule. He stood. Until then, he'd seemed about my height. Now, he seemed taller. Or the ceiling seemed lower. I backed away on my knees. Fine, I said, forcing myself to breathe. Thank you for the tea. I appreciate the shelter. But I'm leaving. I don't need the summit. I just want to go home. The air thickened further. Home, someone repeated from the far corner. Home, echoed another voice. Home, said a third. The word bounced around the hut, gathering dust. Everyone wanted to go home, the man said softly. They all said they'd be careful. They all said they'd follow the signs. He set his hand on my shoulder. His fingers were light. Too light. As if there were no weight behind them. You stepped off the main path, he said. You ignored the crowd. You followed something older. That makes you ours. The lantern above us flickered. For a heartbeat, all the faces in the room sharpened. They were gray. Not in skin color, but in presence. Like photocopies of people. Their eyes were darker than they should have been, pupils wide and flat. My cousin's face was there. Younger than in my memory, somehow. Frozen at the age he'd been when he went missing. He met my gaze. His lips moved. No sound came out. But I heard him in my head. Don't sit down, he said. If you sit all the way down, you won't stand up again. The man's hand tightened. You'll get used to it, he murmured. Everyone thinks the silence is strange at first. Then they find it peaceful. No more crowds. No more bus schedules. No more heat stroke warnings. Just one long rest, at the almost top of the mountain. He squeezed. My shoulder went numb. My thoughts fuzzed. I felt an immense tiredness wash over me, deeper than anything I'd felt at exams, at sports practice, at any sleepless night. Just lie down, something whispered. Sign. Sleep. Let the mountain keep you. My cousin's voice cut through it. Count your breaths, he said. Asterisk remember the wind. There's no wind here. That's how you know it's wrong, asterisk. I inhaled. Exhaled. The air didn't move against my skin. The hut's lantern flames burned without flickering. No draft. No outside. Just inside. Forever. I shoved the man's hand off my shoulder. It took all the strength I had. I'd rather get lost outside, I said, my voice shaking. Than stay in a place where nothing ever moves. For the first time, his face hardened. You don't have that choice, he said. He reached for me again. I grabbed the bell. The small metal one by the door. Without thinking, I slammed it down onto the floor. The sound that burst out was not the delicate chime I expected. It was huge. Deep. Like the temple bells they ring on New Year's Eve. It filled the hut, shuddered through the wood, shook dust from the beams. The lantern above us flared white. Everyone in the room flinched. The man recoiled as if burned. For a brief, blinding moment, I saw them all clearly. Not pale, but colorless. Not alive, but not rotting. Frozen in the moment between going up and never coming down. The notebook snapped open on its own. Pages flipped. I saw names written, then fade. Others appeared. Mine flickered at the bottom of the last page. Half-formed. I grabbed it. Not the pen. The page. I tore it out. My fingers burned with cold as I did. The hut groaned. The man shouted. The world tilted. I was falling. Not down. Sideways. Through wood and stone and fog and something else, thinner and older. Someone screamed my name. It might have been me. I woke up with my cheek pressed against rough gravel. Wind roared in my ears. Real wind. Cold. Violent. Full of moving air. I opened my eyes. The sky was lighter, a gray pre-dawn. The fog had thinned to torn clouds racing past the slopes. I was lying beside the main trail, near a line of wooden posts and rope. A group of climbers shuffled past, their headlamps still on. One of them almost stepped on my hand. "Oi," a familiar voice shouted. "Watch it." Ren. He grabbed my arm and hauled me up. "Kaido, what the hell?" "We've been calling you for an hour," he said. "Where did you go?" "Aki almost went back down to look for you. You just vanished near the 8th. We thought you'd collapsed or something." I stared at him. At Aki's blue jacket behind him. At the other members of our circle. "Where are we?" I asked. "Between 8th and 9th, obviously," he said. "Come on, we're behind schedule. Sunrise is soon. Can you walk?" My leg shook. "Where's the old 9th station?" I asked. "The hut with no name?" He frowned. "What are you talking about?" he said. "There's no hut until just below the top. You need sugar, man. You look messed up." I looked around. There was nothing but the official trail. No side path. No faded wooden sign. No crooked torii. In my pocket, something crinkled. I reached in and pulled out a scrap of paper. Old. Yellowed. On it, in brush strokes that were almost my handwriting but not, was my name. Nishimura Kaido. It was smeared, like ink washed by rain. As I watched, it faded. The paper grew blank. Then brittle. Then crumbled into dust in my fingers. The wind snatched it away. "Kaido?" Aki said carefully. "How's your head? Any nausea? Dizziness?" "Yeah," I said. "But I'm fine. I think I just stepped off the trail for a bit." Rin snorted. "Don't do that," he said. "Fuji eats people who step off the trail. You want to be on the news?" He meant it as a joke. I didn't laugh. We reached the summit just as the sun broke through the clouds. Everyone cheered, took photos, cried about how beautiful it was. I smiled for the group picture, ate my convenience store rice ball, pretended the view made everything worth it. Inside, all I could think about was the hut where the wind never blew. When we later posted our photos online, I zoomed in on every shot taken between 8th and 9th. Looking for anything odd in the fog. A faint outline. A crooked roof. A figure with a colorless gaze. There was nothing. Just rocks and rope and tourists. Back in Tokyo, I tried to find any mention of an old 9th station on Fuji. I trawled forums, read old mountaineering blogs, dug through half-broken websites from the early 2000s. I found rumors. Not many. Just a few posts, always deleted quickly, cached in weird corners of the internet. Anyone ever see a hut above 8.5 station that isn't on the map? My grandpa swears he slept there during his pilgrimage days but says he never should have. My uncle says there used to be a station where the toilet never smelled and the wind never blew. If you find it, don't sit down. Missing persons on Fuji, why are some never found? Not even a shoe. Maybe the mountain has a waiting room. No one mentioned a notebook. Or a bell. Or a man who looked at you like an entry in a ledger. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I open map apps and scroll to Fuji. My finger traces the trail from 5th to summit. Occasionally, the app freezes. For a second, a pin appears between the 8th and 9th stations. No name. Just a small, gray icon in the shape of a hut. If I try to tap it, it disappears. Once, late at night, it stayed for longer. A label popped up. 9th station temporary. Then the screen went black. When it came back, the map was normal. I don't know if I ever really left that hut. Maybe part of me is still kneeling there, in a place where time doesn't move and the air doesn't stir, surrounded by people who reached the summit and never came down. If you ever climb Fuji and fog swallows you above the 8th station, pay attention to the signs. The official ones. The painted ones. The ones that don't show up on your phone. If you see a crooked wooden board pointing to an old 9th station, or hear a small bell ringing in air with no wind, don't follow it. And if you do find a hut where the wind is completely silent and the keeper smiles without his eyes changing, and he slides you a notebook, don't sign your name, no matter how tired you are. Mount Fuji has enough lost souls waiting just below the top, in a station that never quite reaches the summit. It doesn't need yours.